Meantime, Corpus Christi city leaders have announced how they plan to use the more than $67 million that has come our way. It's all part of the federal government's American Rescue Plan Act. Michael Laspia joins us here in the studio to break it down for us. Hey, Mike.
Rudy, part of the design and the intention, I think, for this money is to help local governments respond to the impact that COVID-19 has had on the community. But as I found out, even that covers a whole lot of ground.
It is hard to estimate the cost of a pandemic. Money lost in both revenue and wages has had an immeasurable impact on communities working to support both businesses and individuals. Enter ARPA, the American Rescue Plan Act. The goal is for the money, in the case of Corpus Christi, just over $67,500,000, to be spent in economic recovery. We wonder just how that is defined. With a little digging, we discovered that stipulations for how the funds may be used fall into 5 basic categories: supporting public health expenditures like vaccination programs, addressing negative economic impacts caused by the public health emergency, including help for households, small businesses, and nonprofits, and replacing lost public sector revenue, which includes any funds used to provide government services that may have been reduced because of the pandemic. ARPA money may also be used in providing premium pay for essential workers, specifically and retroactively for those who have borne the greatest health risks because of their service in a critical role. And finally, investing in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure by improving access to clean drinking water, making wastewater and stormwater improvements, and providing new or expanded internet access to unserved or underserved locations. So how did the city do? Clearly, infrastructure improvements won the day, with over $58 million being allocated to waterline replacements, wastewater lift station upgrades, and stormwater improvements across the city. Add to that another $5 million for North Beach drainage improvements, and what's left will be spent in the construction of Fire Station number 3 on Morgan Avenue, with an investment there of roughly $4 million and $100,000 set aside for outdoor dining development. Each project falling within government guidelines.
Now, the city says that making these needed infrastructure improvements should help minimize any utility rate increases in the future.